Daniel Cole stood in front of the massive glass window of his penthouse. Below him, the city glittered. Cars moved like ants. People rushed to places, and yet, he had never felt more alone. At 34 years old, Daniel was one of the youngest CEOs in the country. He owned hotels, tech companies, and real estate worth billions. But tonight, none of that mattered, because he had just overheard something that shattered him. Earlier that evening, Daniel had come home early. He walked quietly toward the living room when he heard his fiancée, Vanessa, laughing on the phone. "Oh, please," she said. "You think I'd be with Daniel if he was broke?" She laughed again. "He's not romantic. He's not even interesting. But his money, that's security." Daniel froze. The phone slipped slightly in his hand. Vanessa continued, "As long as I marry him, I'm set for life." Silence. Something inside him went cold. Not angry. Not loud. Just cold. He walked away before she saw him. He didn't confront her. He didn't shout. He didn't cry. He just thought. The next morning, Daniel sat in his office. Employees greeted him with forced smiles. "Good morning, sir." They respected the suit, the title, the power. But did anyone respect him? He called his lawyer. "I want to step away from the company." The lawyer nearly choked. For how long? 6 months. And who will know? No one. Daniel leaned back in his chair. "I want to see who people are when I have nothing to offer." Within a week, his appearance changed. His beard grew. He wore old clothes. He removed his luxury watch. He transferred temporary leadership to the board. Publicly, the news said, CEO Daniel Cole takes extended international business trip. But Daniel didn't leave the country. He moved into a small rented apartment on the other side of the city. Then he did something shocking. He applied for a janitor position at his own company. The HR manager didn't recognize him. Why would she? The CEO had never spoken to cleaners before. "Name?" she asked. "Danny." "Experience?" "I learn fast." She shrugged. "You start tomorrow." Night shift. That night, for the first time in his life, Daniel cleaned floors. He took out trash. He wiped desks that once belonged to executives who bowed to him. No one greeted him. No one respected him. One manager even snapped, "Hey, cleaner, you missed a spot." Daniel looked up slowly. The same man who once called him sir now waved him away like dirt. And for the first time, Daniel saw the truth. Around 11 p.m., while mopping near the accounting department, Daniel heard soft crying. He peeked inside. A woman sat at her desk, wiping tears quickly. She wore simple clothes. No jewelry, just tired eyes. He knocked gently. "Sorry, I can come back." She forced a smile. "It's okay." Her name tag read, Maya. "Long day?" Daniel asked. She laughed weakly. "Single mom, 2 jobs. 6 in, so yes. Long life." Daniel didn't know what to say. No one had ever spoken to him like that before. Without fear, without pretending. She looked at him and asked, "What about you? You look like someone who didn't expect to end up here." That question hit him hard. He smiled slightly. Something like that. Before leaving, she said something unexpected. "Don't let people make you feel small. Work is work. You matter." He stood there after she walked away. "You matter." No one had said that to him in years. The next day, something worse happened. Daniel overheard 2 executives talking. Honestly, if Daniel wasn't rich, nobody would care about him. True, he's replaceable. They laughed. Replaceable. Daniel realized something terrifying, even at the top. He had been alone. That night, Daniel sat in his small apartment. No penthouse. No champagne. No designer suits. Just silence. But for the first time, The silence felt honest. He looked at his reflection in the mirror. Who am I? Without money. His phone buzzed. It was Vanessa. Baby, when are you coming back? The wedding planner needs payment. He didn't answer. Instead, he typed one message. The wedding is postponed. Then he turned off his phone. This wasn't about revenge. This wasn't about anger. This was about truth. And Daniel had just begun his experiment. But he had no idea. The biggest betrayal wasn't from his fiancée. It was inside his company. And the only person who would stand by him was the woman who saw him as just a cleaner. Power reveals character, but so does poverty. Daniel thought pretending to be poor would show him who truly cared. He wasn't prepared to discover something worse. Someone inside his company was stealing millions, and they thought the boss was gone. 3 weeks into his new life as Danny the cleaner, Daniel noticed something odd. Every Thursday night, the accounting department stayed unusually busy. Lights on, doors closed, whispers. That night, while emptying trash bins, he noticed shredded documents spilling out of one bag. He wasn't trying to snoop, but a number caught his eye. $4,800,000. He froze. Slowly, he pulled out a strip of paper. Another number. $2,300,000. Transfers? Offshore accounts. Daniel's chest tightened. He knew those numbers. They weren't scheduled. They weren't approved. Someone was moving company money and doing it quietly. The next evening, he found Maya staring at her screen, frowning. You ever feel like something isn't right? She asked without looking at him. He stayed calm. What do you mean? She hesitated, then lowered her voice. There are transactions that don't match internal reports. Daniel's heartbeat slowed. So she sees it too. Why not report it? He asked. She gave a tired laugh. To who? The CFO? She leaned closer. He signs the approvals. Daniel felt cold. The chief financial officer, Mr. Harris, a man Daniel had trusted for 8 years, a man who once called him visionary. Maya continued, I'm just an assistant accountant. If I accuse him without proof, I lose my job. She looked at Daniel. And I can't afford that. Daniel looked at her hands. They were shaking slightly. Not from fear, from responsibility. She had a sick son at home. She wasn't thinking about heroism. She was thinking about survival. That night, Daniel did something risky. He used his old executive access code. He had disabled it publicly, but he never deleted it completely. From his small apartment, he logged into the secure system. What he saw made his stomach drop. For 6 months before he left, money had been slowly siphoned. Small amounts at first, then larger. All approved by the CFO and to senior executives. Daniel leaned back. They thought I was too busy to notice or too arrogant to check. He whispered to himself. They were stealing from me while shaking my hand. The next night at work, Daniel walked past the executive hallway. Mr. Harris stepped out of his office. He didn't recognize Daniel. Hey, cleaner. Daniel turned slowly. Yes, sir? You people need to stay out of this hallway unless called. Important discussions happen here. You people. Daniel nodded quietly. Understood. As Harris walked away, Daniel's jaw tightened. The man stealing millions looked down on the janitor. That's when Daniel realized something deeper. Corruption doesn't start with money. It starts with arrogance. The following Thursday, Maya stayed late again. Daniel pretended to mop near her desk. Suddenly, Mr. Harris approached her. Maya, he said smoothly, I need you to process a file tonight. She opened it. Her face changed. Sir, this transfer doesn't match the quarterly sheet. Harris smiled. That's because it's confidential. She swallowed. But the internal policy requires dual verification. His voice hardened. Are you questioning me? Silence filled the room. Daniel's grip tightened on the mop. Harris leaned closer. You're a single mother, right? Medical bills. Her eyes widened. I take care of loyal employees, he continued softly. Approve it. And your son's treatment won't be a problem. Daniel felt anger rise in his chest. This wasn't just theft. This was manipulation. Maya's voice trembled. And if I don't? Harris' smile disappeared. Then perhaps we find someone more cooperative. He walked away. Minutes later, Maya rushed to the restroom. Daniel followed quietly and waited outside. He heard soft crying. Not loud, not dramatic, just exhausted tears. When she stepped out, she looked embarrassed. I'm sorry you had to see that. Daniel shook his head. You didn't do anything wrong. She wiped her face. I can't lose this job. But I can't do something illegal either. She looked at him, almost hopeless. What would you do? Daniel paused. For the first time since starting this experiment, he wanted to reveal himself. He wanted to say, it's my company. I'll fix it. But he didn't. Instead, he said, if someone powerful is wrong, sometimes the only way to win is to gather proof. She stared at him. You sound like someone who's been powerful. He smiled faintly. Maybe I've just cleaned around powerful people. That night, Daniel returned home and stared at his laptop. He had two choices. 1. Reveal himself tomorrow and fire them instantly. 2. Wait and expose everything properly. If he rushed, they'd deny it. Destroy evidence. Blame Maya. No, he needed them confident, comfortable, careless. He picked up his phone. For the first time in weeks, he called his lawyer. I need a forensic audit team, Daniel said calmly. Quietly. There was silence on the line. Are you coming back? The lawyer asked. Daniel looked out the small apartment window. Not yet. The next morning, something unexpected happened. Maya was called into HR. Daniel watched from down the hallway. 30 minutes later, she walked out, pale, holding a letter. Suspended. Pending internal investigation. Daniel's chest burned. They moved faster than I expected. As she walked past him, she whispered, They're trying to silence me. Daniel watched her leave the building. The corrupt executives thought they had removed the problem. They had no idea. The real threat was holding a mop. Maya sat in her small apartment, staring at the suspension letter. Internal misconduct investigation. No salary, no timeline, just silence. Her son slept on the couch beside her, a small blanket covering his thin body. Medical bills lay open on the table. A soft knock came at the door. She froze. Who could that be this late? She opened it slowly. It was Daniel, still in his worn-out hoodie, still just Danny the cleaner. I'm sorry, he said quietly. I heard what happened. She gave a tired smile. I guess honesty is expensive. He looked at the unpaid bills on the table. Something inside him hardened. Do you trust me? He asked. She hesitated. I barely know you. That's fair, he replied calmly. But if I can prove they're stealing, will you help me? Her eyes widened. You have proof. Not yet, he said. But I know how to get it. Back at the company the next day, Daniel noticed something important. Corrupt leaders rarely work alone. They rely on someone nervous, someone greedy, someone careless. That someone was Kevin, junior finance officer. Young, flashy, always nervous. Daniel had seen him sweating during late-night transfers. Kevin wasn't evil. He was scared. And scared people make mistakes. That night, Daniel accessed a restricted internal system again. Using his hidden executive credentials, he created something dangerous. A fake confidential memo. It looked official. It stated, Emergency board audit scheduled offshore transfers under review. He made sure it would only appear in one place: Kevin's private dashboard. Not Harris's. Not the other executives. Just Kevin. Then Daniel waited. The next morning, Kevin's reaction was immediate. Daniel watched from across the hall while pretending to polish glass. Kevin stared at his screen. Color drained from his face. He rushed into Harris's office. Through the slightly open door, Daniel heard whispers. "What audit?" Kevin hissed. Harris looked confused. "There is no audit." Kevin turned his laptop toward him. Harris's face tightened. For a split second. Fear. Real fear. Then Harris regained composure. "Relax," he said sharply. "If the board suspected anything, I would know." But Kevin wasn't convinced. "And if the CEO comes back?" Harris smirked. "He won't." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Won't I?" That evening, Daniel found Kevin alone in the parking garage. Nervous. On the phone. "I told you this was risky." Kevin whispered. "If this blows up, I'm finished." Daniel stepped out of the shadows. "Rough day?" Kevin jumped. "It's you." The cleaner. Daniel nodded calmly. "You look like someone carrying something heavy." Kevin scoffed. "Mind your business." Daniel leaned slightly closer. Sometimes the first person to confess walks away free. Kevin froze. "What are you talking about?" Daniel's voice lowered. "Offshore accounts. Unapproved transfers. Suspended accountant." Kevin's breathing changed. "How do you know about that?" Daniel looked him straight in the eye. "I see more than you think." For a moment, Kevin considered something dangerous. "What if I told you?" "I didn't start it," he whispered. Daniel didn't respond. Silence makes guilty people speak. Kevin swallowed. "Harris said it was approved from the top." Said the CEO knew. Daniel's eyes went cold. "So you stole because you thought it was safe." Kevin's voice cracked. "I have debts, loans. I needed the bonus." There it was. The crack. Later that night, Daniel visited Maya again. "I think one of them is breaking," he said. She looked shocked. "You're actually doing this?" He nodded. "But I need access to archived transaction logs. The ones they think are deleted." She hesitated. "If we get caught." "They already targeted you," he interrupted gently. "They think you're powerless." She looked at her sleeping son. Then back at Daniel. "Okay," she whispered. "What's the plan?" Daniel's final move was bold. He arranged a secret meeting. Anonymous email. Sent to Kevin. Subject line. "I know everything." Location. An empty conference room. Midnight. Kevin showed up. Sweating. Shaking. The lights flicked on. But instead of Daniel, a voice played from a speaker. Pre-recorded. "If you are here, it means you're afraid. Fear means guilt." Kevin spun around. "Who's there?" The voice continued. "There are two choices. Confess to the board anonymously or be exposed publicly." Kevin collapsed into a chair. "I didn't mean for it to go this far." Outside the room, watching through security cameras only a CEO could access, Daniel whispered, "Checkmate." The next morning, chaos erupted. An anonymous internal complaint had been filed, with evidence attached. Transaction records, signatures, approval trails. Harris stormed into the office, furious. "Someone is setting us up." He looked around suspiciously. Then his eyes landed on Daniel. Just for a second. A strange pause, as if something felt familiar. Daniel lowered his gaze. Still just the cleaner. Still invisible. But not for long. Because that afternoon, the board of directors scheduled an emergency meeting. And they demanded one thing: the CEO's immediate return. Daniel wanted truth. Now truth is demanding him back. Will he walk into that boardroom as a janitor? Or as the billionaire they betrayed? The emergency board meeting request spreads through the company like wildfire. Employees whisper. Phones buzz. Executives panic. But Harris doesn't panic. He studies. From his office window, he watches the floor below. His eyes stop on Daniel, the cleaner, mopping slowly. Too calm. Too observant. Harris narrows his eyes. Why do I feel like I've seen him before? Harris calls security. I want a full file on the new janitor. Danny, immediately. Within an hour, a thin file lands on his desk. Minimal work history. Recently hired. No social media footprint. No references beyond basic checks. Too clean. Harris leans back. No one is this invisible. He picks up his phone. Follow him after his shift. That evening, Maya notices something strange. Two unfamiliar men standing near the building entrance. Watching. Not employees. Not delivery staff. Watching. She finds Daniel in the hallway. You're being followed, she whispers. Daniel doesn't react. By who? I don't know. But they've been here since afternoon. Daniel nods slowly. So Harris is moving. Good. Let him show his hand. But inside, Daniel knows something serious. This is no longer about money. This is about survival. Daniel leaves work at 11:30 p.m. The night is quiet. Footsteps echo behind him. Not close, but steady. He turns a corner. They turn a corner. He slows down. They slow down. Confirmation. They're not just watching. They're tracking. Daniel suddenly enters a crowded late-night restaurant. The men stop outside, watching through the glass. Daniel sits down calmly, orders coffee, then discreetly sends a message to his lawyer. Activate contingency plan. The next morning, Harris calls Kevin into his office. You talked, Harris says coldly. Kevin shakes his head quickly. No, I swear. Harris slams a folder onto the desk. Someone is feeding the board information. Kevin trembles. I don't know who. Harris studies him, then says something chilling. If I fall, I don't fall alone. Kevin goes pale. That afternoon, Maya receives a call from an unknown number. A calm male voice speaks. You should stop helping the janitor. Her heart skips. I don't know what you're talking about. A pause. We know where your son goes to school. The line goes dead. Maya drops the phone. Fear spreads through her body like ice. This isn't corporate politics anymore. This is intimidation. When Maya tells Daniel what happened, something inside him snaps. His voice stays calm, but his eyes change. They threaten your child. She nods, fighting tears. I don't want to do this anymore. It's not worth it. Daniel looks at her gently. No, he says firmly. It's exactly why we finish it. For the first time, his tone carries authority. Power. Maya notices. Who are you? She whispers. He pauses. Almost tells her. Almost. But instead he says, someone who doesn't lose. Harris decides to end it quietly. He instructs the security team. Fire the janitor immediately. No explanation. But when HR goes to process the termination, they can't. His employee file is locked. Restricted access. Authorization level, executive only. HR calls Harris. Sir, we don't have permission to terminate him. Silence. Harris feels something cold crawl up his spine. Executive only. That level belongs to. No. Impossible. That evening, Harris confronts Daniel directly in the hallway. You, Harris says sharply. Daniel turns slowly. Yes, sir? Harris steps closer. Too close. Who are you really? Employees nearby pretend not to watch. Daniel holds his gaze calmly. Just a cleaner. Harris searches his face. Something familiar. The eyes. The confidence. Then suddenly, a board member walks into the building unexpectedly. Harris is called away urgently. Before leaving, he leans toward Daniel and whispers, "If you're playing a game, you're in the wrong arena." Daniel's voice is low. "No," he replies. "I built the arena." Harris doesn't hear it clearly, but he feels it. Late that night, Daniel returns to his apartment. He opens his laptop. His forensic audit team has finished compiling everything. Proof, bank trails, recorded calls, threat logs, everything. He looks at his reflection. This ends tomorrow. Meanwhile, Harris sits alone in his office. He opens an old company photo from years ago. A younger Daniel standing beside him at a conference. Harris zooms in, then looks at the cleaner's image from security footage. Back to the photo. Back to the footage. His breathing slows. No. The realization begins. And when powerful men realize the truth, they become the most dangerous. The forensic audit report is finalized. Daniel receives a secure message. Board meeting confirmed. 9 a.m. Presence required. He stares at the screen. It's time. But before closing the laptop, he forgets one thing. He leaves it open. Logged in. Executive access panel visible. Minutes later, there's a knock at his apartment door. It's Maya, breathing fast. "I think Harris knows," she says urgently as she steps inside. Then she stops. Her eyes move slowly to the laptop. She freezes. On the screen, CEO Administrative Dashboard. Access level, Daniel Cole. Her heart begins to pound. Slowly, very slowly. She looks at him. "You said your name was Danny." Silence fills the room. Daniel closes the laptop gently. "It is," he says calmly. "Just not the full version." Her voice trembles. "Daniel Cole?" He doesn't deny it. He doesn't confirm it loudly either. He just says, "Yes." Maya steps back like the floor just moved. "You're the CEO?" It isn't a question. It's disbelief. "You've been lying to me." Daniel shakes his head slightly. "I was hiding." There's a difference. She laughs softly, but it's not happy. "So what was I?" An experiment. That hits him harder than anything else so far. "No. You watched me struggle. You watched me cry. And you said nothing." Her eyes fill with tears. "Was I just part of your little lesson about poor people?" Daniel steps closer, but she steps back. "Don't," she says quietly. For the first time since this began, Daniel feels small. Not because he's pretending, but because he hurt someone who didn't deserve it. He takes a breath. "I started this because I didn't know who to trust." He looks directly at her. "I thought everyone loved my money." He pauses. "I needed to see who people are when I have nothing." Her voice is sharp. "And what did you see?" "I saw greed," he says. "I saw corruption." Then his voice softens. "And I saw you." She swallows. "You treated me like I mattered," he continues. "Not because of power. Not because of money." He takes another step forward, slowly this time. "You didn't know who I was. And you still stood up for what was right." Silence. The weight of truth hangs between them. Suddenly, Maya's phone buzzes. Unknown number again. She answers on speaker. A calm voice speaks. "You should tell your janitor friend to stop playing hero." Daniel's eyes go cold. The voice continues. "Board meeting tomorrow won't go the way he expects." The line disconnects. Maya looks at Daniel. They know. Daniel nods slowly. Yes. Now there are no masks between them. No lies. Just danger. Maya sits down, overwhelmed. "You could end this tomorrow," she says. "You're the CEO. Just fire them." Daniel shakes his head. "If I walk in without solid evidence presented correctly, they'll twist it. Lawsuits, delays, public mess." He pauses. They're desperate now. And desperate men are unpredictable. She looks at him carefully. You knew they threatened my son. His jaw tightens. Yes, and you still kept pretending. He answers honestly. I needed them to think I was weak. She steadies him, then asks quietly, and what are you really? Daniel doesn't hesitate this time. I'm not weak. There's a long silence. Maya stands up slowly. You should have told me, she says softly. I know. She walks toward the door. For a second, Daniel thinks she's leaving for good, but she stops, turns around. You didn't have to fight this, she says. You could have stayed rich and comfortable. He shrugs slightly. Comfort without truth feels empty. She looks at him, really looks at him now. Not as a janitor, not as a CEO, just as a man. You risked everything. He shakes his head. No, he looks at her. I risked nothing compared to you. That breaks something in her walls. The next morning, the boardroom fills. Executives sit stiffly. Harris looks confident. Too confident. The door opens. Footsteps echo, but instead of the janitor walking in quietly, Daniel walks in wearing a tailored black suit. Clean shave. Sharp presence. Power radiating. Gasps fill the room. Maya watches from the back. Harris' face drains of color. Daniel stops at the head of the table. His voice is calm. Good morning. A long pause. I hear there's been some confusion in my absence. Harris swallows. Daniel places a thick file on the table. And I believe I have clarity. Camera cuts to Maya's face. Not shock anymore. Understanding. Respect. And something else. Something deeper.